I'm going to call to order the meeting of the Rules Administration and Procedure Committee for the City of Aurora. Today's date is June 3rd, 2025. Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Chairperson Edward J. Bug.
Here.
Vice Chair Daniel Barrero.
Here.
Alderman Javier Benuelos.
Here.
Alderwoman Shotabade.
Here.
Alderman at Large Will White.
Here.
5 present.
Thank you very much. Before we get into things, this is the new Rules Administration Procedure Committee. I want to welcome the new members to this committee. If you have sat on this committee before, and I think that's only Alderman Barrero sat on this committee before, so our other 3 people are new. So welcome. We will be gentle today and ease on into it. So let's go. First item on the agenda. Approval of minutes 25-0450, approval of minutes from RAP Committee, meeting held on May 20th, 2025. Do I hear a motion to approve?
Second.
Motion from Alderman Barrero, second from Alderwoman Bade. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it, 5-0. Clerk, do we have anyone for public comment?
No one has signed up.
Okay, let's get right into the full agenda. 25-0321, ordinance amending Chapter 12 of the Aurora Code of Ordinances titled Buildings and Building Regulations to adopt the 2024 I-Series series of codes and recommended amendments.
Hello, everybody. Josh Ream, Director of Development Services for the City of Aurora. I apologize. Rich Jacobs told me he's listened to me too much. So we were supposed to do this as a musical. We had Lin-Manuel Miranda booked, but the storm stopped us playing. So you're just going to have to listen to me drone on for the next like 40 minutes here. So I apologize.
That's okay.
We have done already 3 presentations on this. So for those of you that are new, if you reach out, be more than happy to get you the other presentations or go over anything on that. What we've covered previously is the building code, fire code, the existing building code, and some general overview and oversight. Today looks like a lot, but it's actually going to be shorter than the other ones, so that's good. We're going to be looking at the fuel gas code, the mechanical code, the plumbing code, the international residential code, the swimming pool and spa code, and the national electrical code. So hopefully everybody can stay awake through the next little bit here. It's not too bad. So the overview of each one of these, in the fuel gas code, strictly commercial code, so anything other than 1 and 2 family dwellings in certain townhomes, and it's all fuel gas piping requirements. So think like gas to your stove, cooking material, cooking surfaces, mechanical equipment, things like that. And it's going to cover its use, sizing, materials, how to vent items that have fuel gas run to them. The IPC there is the International Plumbing Code. So we're only using, it's meant for our use for commercial and not for 1 and 2 family dwelling units and townhomes again. So you know, the state has its own plumbing code that supersedes everything in this. So the only thing we're pulling out of the plumbing code are items that are not otherwise taken care of by the Illinois Plumbing Code. The IMC, the International Mechanical Code, is again strictly commercial, other than it covers everything other than 1 and 2 family and townhomes again. And then it has everything from duct sizing, makeup air requirements, unit sizings, when to do a hood, venting, and all of that stuff for your typical mechanical HVAC, as you may also talk about it. The ISPSC is the International Swimming Pool and Spa Code. It does cover both residential and commercial in there, and it's everything on pools from how equipment has to be handled, how it has to be hooked up to electrical, heating components, access, protection. So thinking little kids getting into, public pools or potentially getting into someone's yard and everything like that. The other 2 books, the IRC, so this is the book that covers 1 and 2 family dwelling units, and then again, certain townhomes it covers there. It has a complete overview of everything on construction for homes. So we're starting all the way from foundation all the way through roofs, and then it also has separate sections for all the mechanical, electrical, plumbing, fuel gas, in there as well. So that way someone could basically have one book to do everything for something residential. I will say we're doing, we do something a little bit different, is we strike out most of the electrical stuff, and we'll talk about that later, and we're going to reference over to the next book for all of that. And this is now used for both new and remodel work, and there's some special sections that have gotten expanded upon in this version that we'll go over as well to cover how we do remodeling, repair work, and everything like that. The NEC there is the last book we'll cover today. That's the National Electrical Code. It is not published by ICC, the International Code Council, that does all the other books. It is published by the NFPA, that also does some of our fire and other codes like that. It will cover both commercial and residential. And this thing goes from everything from like the transformers and services outside all the way through that outlet and switch on the wall. It covers everything. There isn't a lot in there that deals explicitly with existing conditions on it. So we have tailored our adoptions to look at limiting the use in these areas for anything that's repair, remodel, and stuff like that, so that we're not forcing people to redo an entire electrical system as a building simply because they're like remodeling a room or putting on a small addition. So everyone knows the reviewers for these projects. We do have, for the ICC components, staff, and they're actually all here. John Curley, our Chief Development Service Officer, myself, and then Jesse Kohler is our Director of Building and Permits, for anyone that hasn't met him before. The Permanent Building and Fire Code Committee.
Just let me stop for a second.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for the introductions. Please, gentlemen, please wave your hands. We have new
Oh, yeah.
aldermen here who do not know who you are yet. So, John Curley.
And then Jesse Kohler is our Director of Building Permits. And then the other one, I was waiting for the other slide, but Cody Lake is our combination, one of our combination inspectors. They actually do multiple trays of inspections for us. We have 2 of those right now, and we have another staff member that has actually tested and done enough certifications that we're going to be looking to raise a 3rd here pretty soon. And then also on that list for the Building and Fire Code Committee, you'll see on there we have architects, designers, contractors. These are all people that sat with us from the outside in order to review all these. So we've got subject matter experts both in the design components and kind of like the purchasing and installation of components. So we kind of cover a wide basis and get everyone in a room talking to kind of get a consensus before we move forward with these. The NFPA components, so the NEC that we talked about, a little bit different. We have a separate electrical commission that has contractors, engineers on it. Also, our fire chief, Dave McCabe, is on that. That's a mandate through the state of Illinois that the fire chief needs to be on there. And then same kind of staff, but limited to our combination and electrical inspectors are on there. So breakdown of how we're kind of doing the code review, just so you know as we're going through the slides. On the left side, what we're kind of showing is where we're going to be going to. And on the right side of the slide will be where we were at, or the historic kind of portion of the code. So we're kind of giving a little compare and contrast, giving information on both sides. As we're going with these, I'm not showing you everything. Honestly, we go to seminars that are multiple days long just on individual books, and no one wants to sit through that other than us, and even we don't necessarily want to. So we're just trying to give you guys the highlights, the biggest impact items. And then in the ordinance modifications later on, we're going back with what was already in the ordinance and what we're either changing due to stuff changing in the base code or based on our conversations with these outside designers and professionals, what things we're modifying based on their input, or what we've heard from aldermen in the past about, hey, we're having issues here or there, or I'm hearing constituents, we want to do that. So we evaluate all that as part of our process. We actually kind of file all those away and try and collect it for every time we do a code adoption. This is just a little bit more giving specific dates of what you will see so that you know the code cycles happen every 3 years. So presently we're on the 2015 code that we adopted. Since then there's been a 2018 and a 21 and now a 24 code. So as part of our review process, we have to sit through and look at each of those subsequent additions and kind of see where the code is transferred over that course of time. So you may see references to slightly different dates. something that may have been adopted in 21, and it's the same in 24, but we're just trying to give you the starting point of where it was put in, because we evaluate that. And just for general knowledge, the NECs are always released a year ahead of the ICC codes, so that's the reason for those slightly different years. They come out a year ahead, and then the ICC incorporates them in as part of their adoption process that following year. So going to kind of go, there's not a ton of highlights, but just want to go over some of them, an individual one. So the first is in the fuel gas code. And what this is a change to shut-off valves that are located within the same room. So think of a dryer appliance in an apartment, stove in that same place, anything that's run by fuel gas. It was very unclear in the code whether the fuel gas, everyone's seen it like a little red handle you got to turn to terminate the gas or anything like that. It was unclear in the code if it was okay to have that directly behind an appliance. So a lot of times we were forced to move them up or put access panels in so they could be directly accessed, not behind the device. So that puts it in multiple locations, or we're causing people to have to repipe things and make access panels based on where the code was before. They've now clarified it that anything that's movable, like, you can regularly like shimmy or move out, that the actual shutoff can be behind there, that they're not actually intended for emergency situations. They're basically saying if you've got a leak or there's a fire or something causing, you should not be trying to move that appliance to turn it off. We should be turning off the gas at its source. So they tried to clear that up and make it a little easier. We have run into these problems with this code. I think it was out at Lumen, right, Jesse? So out at Fox Valley in the apartments there where they were located, and we had to have them repipe a bunch of dryer units and add different access panels. And it was a time delay going back and forth, getting with ICC. So we're just a real life example for us of how it could be a little bit faster and more expeditious by getting rid of this. That was really the only one in the fuel gas code. Yeah, go ahead. Oh, sorry, I thought you had a question. I apologize, Alderman White. Mechanical code, so fire damper, access, and identification. If not everyone knows, a fire damper kind of looks like a little accordion, like vent thing, really heavy steel, and it's usually put into the duct. It has what's called a fusible link on it, so it's a little metal piece that as we get heat, it'll release, and it allows this damper to shut, basically stopping fire, smoke, traversing through rated assembly areas. By code, you were supposed to be able to access these and everything like that. It became apparent, though, that much smaller ones were not being readily able to be accessed. They're making it hard. I mean, Jesse used to work mechanically and tell stories about having to crawl up into spaces and everything like that in order to access or check these things. So what comes up is that maintenance doesn't regularly look at them because it's just too difficult and everything like that. And there's a lot of cases of failure of these because something's gotten wedged, rusted, it's stuck, something's in the channel that it would run through. And so now they're requiring a more specific way to access it so it can be more easily maintained. Again, kind of helping business safety of the buildings as we're going through. I should note that this is not something like the rest of these codes that are retroactive. This would be forward-facing on anything that's new construction. So we're not going to go back and make a bunch of people change out duct or add access panels. This is going to be a moving forward, or if you do a remodel to something. IRC, carbon monoxide alarm interconnectivity. So you're probably already familiar with this in one sense, in like your smoke detectors in your home. One goes off in like the family room downstairs. All of a sudden, they're all chirping and going and everything like that. That's, again, to make sure that we know something's going on in the house, alert us, get it going. Carbon monoxide detection was added to the code in 2009. So we have individual areas. Carbon monoxide is especially dangerous when we're sleeping. So it's usually located by bedrooms, sleeping areas like that, to cause an alert. What they have found is, although it's working and we're saving lives with the carbon monoxide detection, that the lack of interconnectivity was still allowing gaps in kind of coverage, because an alarm may be going off downstairs for a while, say the water heater went out or something like that, and it's triggering something down there, but everybody's asleep and nobody hears that one. And by the time it actually triggers upstairs, it's already filled other components of the house or things like that. So now what they're asking is that the carbon monoxide alarm be interconnected just like the fire alarms are. There's already combination units and stuff like that that will do this. And again, this isn't something that's necessarily retroactive, but it will be something staff would start looking for anytime people are doing a certain level of replacement, not replacement necessarily, but repairs, upgrades, renovations to the house. We already have this in place for the fire alarm system, and we'd be adding this for the carbon monoxide. They make dual systems now and everything. And again, just something to protect everybody while they're sleeping or in case something is malfunctioning in the house that could be causing an issue. NEC, so this is jumping in the electrical code. This is something we had a very long discussion on with our contractors and also our design group. And this is allowing MC cable for the first time in residences. So this is a metal cable, a little more flexible. You're probably used to seeing it in like what we allow now is like a 6-foot, what we call a whip. So if you're coming from a junction box somewhere above the ceiling, you can run power up to like 6 feet kind of in a space. What we are advocating is that we start allowing this in single family homes when there's doing a remodel. So think a homeowner redoing their basement, maybe remodeling a room. They want to add in a ceiling fan or something like that. It's just a much more efficient way for them to be able to do it than learning how to bend conduit or get it in there. And also for us, we found frequently that if we got calls about work without permit or things like that, people were already doing this anyways, and they're explicitly avoiding us because of the requirement of conduit and everything like that. So this, we're hoping people will see us as a little bit less onerous to get through. We're trying to be a little more accommodating, and we know we're going to hold the homeowner to the fact that, hey, you got to do this correct and everything like that, but we will let you do it. As of right now, because we're kind of, I would say it's on a trial period, or we want to see how it goes, we're only advocating for it in owner-occupied 1- and 2-family dwelling units, because we want the people in there to be consciously aware of what they're doing and be able to discuss with them some of the things they may have while installing it. We didn't want to yet allow rental property owners or things like that to start doing it and then just going through roughshod on their properties, like renovating with this, because again, it is not quite up to the safety standards you'd think of from conduit as far as like penetrations in a wall, running screws through it, things like that. But it's enough where we can work with it one-on-one with homeowners, if that kind of makes sense. Again, just trying to help out a little bit here and then hopefully get some more compliance out of everyone as well. Just kind of a quick summary here of other changes of note. So the fuel gas code, and this was also covered in the mechanical code, explicitly doesn't allow commercial equipment, cooking equipment and dwelling units anymore. There used to be some leniency, and they basically found they're too large, kind of too dangerous. So commercial cooking equipment not going in your main kitchen. Mechanical code for manicure and pedicure stations at salons and stuff like that. There's now a requirement that these have to operate continuously. Basically, just the fumes from all of these applications are just so bad, noxious, unhealthy, that any time that a station is operational, it needs to be running kind of constantly. Dryer vent exhaust, just a new thing about it, can't be within 3 feet of a opening, so think door, window to a building. The plumbing code honestly had no significant changes whatsoever for anything that we would enforce as part of the City of Aurora because of the state code. And just as an update, so you guys know, we have not heard anything about the state beginning or adopting a new version of the plumbing code. So we expect to be on the 2014 of that for the foreseeable future. Same thing with the swimming pool and spa code, no significant changes between all of them, some minor rearrangement and things like that, but nothing of real material value. IRC did have a couple of things that were interesting. 2-family dwelling units, there used to be ways to get out of separations between the units or also not having to run them everywhere. But just due to the quantity of fires and other situations that they've had, they're now enforcing the fact that the walls between dwelling units need to extend permanently all the way through to the exterior wall and completely go to the underside of the roof deck construction. So we've almost made 2 totally separate cubes, and we're just pushing them together and giving them a different outside. One thing we're happy about, and I just did a small section on here, is the 329.6 for the photovoltaics on the roofs. The 2015 code we're underneath has a lot of contradictory and conflicting information regarding pathways on the roof for solar panels. I think if you guys ever see houses or anything, there's always walkways around, ridge, sides, things like that. There's a lot of different things in there that conflict from book to book. They did a good job by now kind of getting all that stuff refined, and it's more uniform so that we are going to have a much easier way. They also reduced a lot of the requirements, so we're going to be able to get more panels on people's roofs, probably make them a little happier and get them a better return. Decks, we put 2 sections in here. There have been some partial deck collapses the last couple of years in town. We've been avoiding most of them or getting property standards cases on a lot before they occur. But decks are going to become a little bit easier to look at, only because of the way they broke down the code. There's more specific sections now, rather than it being clumped together. We're reworking some deck handouts to incorporate this new data and give people more specific areas to look for if you need like structural support or things like that on it. Also, for our area, what's interesting, decks never had to account for snow load on them, but they do give examples in the book that as decks to become more, and then also proliferate the increased amount of use of like hot tubs outside, sauna rooms and stuff like that. All of a sudden you're dropping a sauna on there with a ton of weight. People are using it during the winter, and it's also added 6 inches of snow weight or something like that. It's been causing more and more collapses. So just trying to increase that initial structural look at there. Another item that's really cool, that Appendix AO, and John, I know, has been advocating for this for a while and is excited about it. This tailors the residential code to look more like the existing building code that we talked about previously, and it allows us to apply different conditions to residential projects, whether they're a repair, an alteration, or an addition. So we don't have to go through the whole book looking for complete compliance. We can do only certain components that are being affected by this, and then also depending on the value and quantity of work. So we're able to give people a little more relief from the code and also be a little more flexible in our interpretations of what's going on with it. So that's going to be a cool component. NEC changes to notes, and a lot of these are residential, but not all of them. GFCIs in dwelling units. It used to be that the GFCI connections in a basement were only required when it was unfinished, and it didn't speak to the fact that when the basement was finished, you could go without GFCI, which is kind of weird because the threat of water in the basement didn't go anywhere, right? Just because we put up walls and drywall didn't mean that basement's still not going to be the worst place for water. So it's kind of a weird thing. They've cleaned that up as of the 2020, and now it's required throughout the basement anytime you're doing work. Again, a big safety thing there. The second one there, countertops and work surfaces. I think everyone's probably seen a lot, like the outlets that are underneath and extended, like peninsula or countertop or around the work area kitchen. They found out those have been extremely hazardous, especially to children, because like they're walk by, they may pull out a toaster or crock pot that's walking by, or they're pulling out a chair. Same thing with adults. You don't see it, you just kick it. So they're no longer requiring those outlets to be placed there. There's still going to be some caveats about running power for potential future expansion, but they're no longer going to be required. The outlets at the back of the counter, so on the backsplash, is still going to be there. And there's new sections for like in-surface power, like we're seeing like with the microphone and things like that. You probably see them where you pop them and they pop up and stuff. So looking for better, safer ways to do that. The emergency disconnect item there is probably going to have the best effect on our emergency responders. The emergency disconnect, what it does, basically think my best example, and it's not a great one, but Ghostbusters, and the big handle, you push it, shuts everything down. That's what's going on the outside of the house next to the main components where the power is coming in from ComEd, so at like our meter socket outside. What this does is fire arrives or anything like that, your house is on fire. Firefighter doesn't have to go in the basement to terminate all the fire. They can go right to the outside, run, terminate everything to the house, so that using water and everything like that, the hazards and dangers go down significantly. So that's, again, just relocating a component outside. Alderman Barrow?
Chairman Bug, can I ask a question?
Certainly.
So a thought comes to mind is, on TV, you see people doing, bad things, and they
Oh, yes,
shut
coming-
the power off, and then,
Mhm.
people, hey, what happened to our power? Is this going to be something that people can just randomly go up to somebody's
No,
house and
it-
shut it off? or-
No, it'll be protected, and I think the way I'll find the specific coding section to it. I believe there's gonna be like a key setup, similar to like, if you look around town, we have Knox boxes for, every business, where fire can come up, put a key in, open up a box and get the keys to the business. There's gonna be safety components like that where you would not just have an exposed handle where teenagers can run around town and turn off power to all the houses. And again, this also would not be retroactive, so we're not looking at going back on old houses or anything. It would only be new construction. The caveat on it being, and I should have mentioned that, I'm sorry, is that if someone does a complete replacement of their electrical system, so if you're upping the amperage of your panel or doing something like that where we're changing out the meter socket at the panel, we would ask for that it get changed out at that time. Alderman Bug, anything additional?
No, obviously Alderman Barrow and I watch the same TV shows, because that question came to my mind also.
All
So.
right. Well, I could see my 14-year-old son and his friends trying to have fun with it as well. So we'll make sure I'll get you something over to about that full text language and everything like that so you can look at it before going forward. Over voltage protection, sorry, trying to find my place again. This is now going to happen at the main panel in the house. So it'll be like a surge protector, basically protecting the whole house. Part of the reason for this is, A, we've all got more electronics, right? More TVs, smart TVs plugged in, computers, things like that. This would allow coverage for the entire house or home living space rather than now where you're having to do it in individual outlets, basically. Any questions about the significant changes before I get into ordinance items?
Any questions from the members? Let's continue on.
Good, all right. So updates on ordinance items, I think this is fairly short, but just to give you guys a key index. Green is anything added, red is anything deleted, blue is changes, and orange is anything note related, just in case you go back and read it or look at the other ones. We tried to keep that format across all the presentations. These are really hard to read, I'm sorry. So the first one comes for the fuel gas code. It actually also appears in the mechanical code. What this is asking for is a hose bib to be placed within 200 feet of any equipment that needs, that is over 16 feet above grade. So think like rooftop units and things like that. Mechanical contractors are usually required to perform routine maintenance on these a lot of the times. And a lot of that requires mass flushing and water. As I imagine you can all know, even running like 100 feet of hose at your house, the water pressure by the end is a lot less than when that hose isn't on it. If you think about running that through a major industrial building all the way up to a roof and over, they've got like no pressure to execute their work. Or if they're running on the outside of the building and going against that height, it's also really bad. So we set a limit of like 5,000 square feet on here. And what we're looking to do is put a hose bib somewhere near a roof access point. So if it's a stairway that's up to the roof or a ladder, getting a hose bib there so they can immediately connect and run out. Again, just providing that additional pressure so they can properly maintain all the mechanical equipment and stuff that's on the roof. Next one from the International Mechanical Code. This one also revolves almost exclusively around restaurants. So there's been a big push recently for grease ducts that are factory built for commercial hoods and kitchens. We've done a couple of them over with, all three of them over on River had it, right? So Leilani, Touche, and also Giardino's, just as example, all have what are called captive air systems. They're a custom designed, built in factory and installed on site duct system. There's very specific instructions, all that, and we are finding it extremely labor-intensive, onerous process for both the owner, the contractor, and us to inspect every component as it's going up and in place. So we're putting in some conditions here to handle that differently than a standard or traditional welded grease duct system that goes up. This is to allow the owner a little more flexibility, not put so much time on our staff where we'd have, I think Cody was out at one place for like 6 hours one day, going back and forth, just watching individual components put up. And that's not an ideal use of staff time. We'd rather be there right at the beginning, maybe, right at the end, and then provide them, have certification and other things like that and testing that they can provide to us. The way our ordinance was written before, this wasn't an option, so we were having to go out there and watch every step. So again, we're trying to get with the times or keep moving on and kind of follow up and allow a little more flexibility, speed, make everybody a little happier and still ensure safety of those particular components. The plumbing code had no significant changes other than administrative stuff. And just to let you know, we covered this previously in the other presentations, but since it's here, the 100 level or early portions of all the code are referenced in our general section, but then we're also in all these places in the ordinance. We found mistakes, things that weren't cleaned up and shared from one to one. And since they all should technically be the same, we removed them from all the individual code adoptions and threw them all in the general section. So we just had one place to look and update and there wouldn't be any conflicts, just so everyone knows. The residential code, the first thing we removed here, and it's not all of it, it's only the first portion of it, was components about foundations and foundation spaces and buildings in the floodplain. All of this was already covered by the stormwater ordinance with the county that engineering has adopted. So we were actually duplicating efforts and had some differences in it that we found. And technically it should be a engineering stormwater thing. It shouldn't necessarily be anything that's specifically in the residential code. So we went ahead and removed this so there wasn't any conflict or someone designing to one and not doing the other. And that way we could make sure that it was streamlined for that particular use. This next section of red there had to do with minimum foundation standards. So think size of footing, depth of footing, amount of rebar, how big the wall had to be. We had, and it predates even John being here, so it's pretty darn old. We had someone had done all sorts of custom math and done all sorts of things with the foundations that weren't really relevant anymore. The code had kind of caught up, done a lot of stuff, and we looked in a good space. So we felt good to remove what we had custom put in there and go directly out of the IRC now. We think this is going to be a lot easier also for home builders, things like that. Rather than looking at our custom code, they'll be able to look at the general IRC that they're used to designing to and kind of move on from there. The chapter 34 there that we removed is all those electrical requirements. Just for knowledge, most every electrician, including the ones we talked to on our committee and our two inspectors that used to be electricians, none of them use the International Residential Code when they're in field. All of them are using the NEC. And the NEC, the National Electrical Code, the language was almost identical in the International Residential Code. It's basically a difference in section numbers, things like that. So we found it easier. If that's what they're using in field, that's what inspectors are used to. Let's not muddy the waters and do two. We'll just make our IRC reference for electric go directly to the NEC and use all the language out of there. Again, just kind of a cleanup on everything that's going on. Swimming pool and spa code, again, nothing more important than administrative items. And then the electrical code, we covered this once before, but again, just so that's mentioned here. What we're trying to do is we found in building projects we've recently done, whether it be like the old Copley Hospital or the Todd building and even Lincoln, areas where there was already electrical service and we're doing an addition or an expansion, we're adding more service, that main panels would be in different areas. Fire, someone responds, they think they're in the main room, they turn off the power, but it didn't turn off all the power. So they get further in the building, there's still something on that's potentially causing a hazard. So what we're asking now is that in the main emergency room, so usually the fire sprinkler room, where there's the main panel, is that there's going to be a big mushroom button that they'll hit that shuts down all the power. It's going to feed back to those new sub-services that are out there and turn them off as well. So basically AFD can respond, hit one thing, and know all the power's out in the building. Again, this isn't something that's going to be retroactive where we're going out after buildings that have already been set up, But anyone now that comes in, remodels, adds additional electrical power, we're going to make sure this is in there. We've already kind of been doing it, but it's been basically in a negotiation with who's ever doing the work that, hey, this really isn't safe. Now we're going to have some actual more firm code language to stand behind on it is our objective. Any questions about the ordinance update or individual items?
Any questions?
Anything at all? Did Rich stay awake the whole time, or is he sleeping over there?
Well, I thank you very much for this extensive, thorough, detailed account and presentation over 4 meetings,
Yeah.
I believe.
Yes.
So it's not a record, but it's close. No, we thank you for
If
your
we
hard
can know the
work.
record next time, I'll try and break it. if you
Okay.
want. Anything else?
I do have a few questions.
Alderwoman
sure.
Bade.
Hi, this is our first time on RAB committee. Can you please attach this presentation so we can see the
Yeah,
previous
sure.
ones? And so the document that is attached here to Legistar Exhibit A, combined amendments, it has items that are deleted.
Mm-hmm.
So can we also attach the original document so we know what is deleted?
We'll look into that, because I think some of the items that say deleted are actual in original code. So
Okay.
what we have done is, like, I'm just going to throw a number out, let's say IRC section 518.4. We've decided we're not going to have it. We say 518.4 deleted, because we're removing that from the text. We're not allowing people to do that. What I can probably do as well is send you a link to the codes. All the codes are available for free online, and that way you could reference back and forth and know that section was in there, if that makes sense.
Makes sense. And the other thing was, maybe we've already discussed this previously about Airbnb, since we are going towards making Aurora a tourist destination. Do we have anything for Airbnb?
Yeah, we got that in a couple different sections. No.
There we go. Okay. John Curley, Chief Development Services Officer. Alderwoman Bade, the Airbnb, the use-specific things that would come out of the building codes would look very similar to what is in the codes for residential use. We have in the past, and I'm sure we're going to continue to discuss the possibility of some legislation regarding the use of the temporary use of an Airbnb in neighborhoods, because we have had some complaints. Thankfully, it hasn't been exorbitant amount of complaints, but there have been some for sure. But that's more of a use question rather than the building code question. There are some code issues that arise when those uses have, let's say, not been controlled well, and it's too many people in a house, for an example. And we have used the codes to compel somebody to modify how that was being used. As an example, if you have more than 49 people in a room, both of these doors should swing in the direction of travel. That's not true in a residential structure, single-family residential structure. But if it's being used for an assembly use, then we could cite it for that as being a safety item. So there are things we can use in the code to help with that, but the larger issue for Airbnbs, I think, is more use-specific rather than code-specific. And that is something that I believe we're still going to continue to talk about with the new administration.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And if that is it, so you're seeking an adoption of, the way this came in, at least on the agenda today, one was the informational discussion of, and one is the ordinance amending. So we will vote on the adoption of.
Correct, yeah.
But I'm going to read into the record just the second number for giggles. 25-0405, an informational discussion on the upcoming ordinance amending Chapter 12 of the Aurora Code of Ordinances titled Buildings and Building Regulations to adopt the 2024 I-Series of codes and recommended amendments. Okay, so I read them both into the record, so the asking of the adoption is actually now on 25-0321. Do I hear a motion to approve? Alderwoman Bay, do I hear a second?
Second.
Second. Alderman White. All opposed? All in favor?
Is there discussion?
Any further discussion?
Yeah.
We've discussed it for the last half
Oh,
hour.
I have a question.
Any further discussion?
Yeah, I mean, we're here and privy to the information and the changes. My question is there been, information given to the, building community, contractors and such, and, you know, do they know about this, and, you know, what is their feedback?
Yeah, sure, and I can go over a variety of components on that. As I said, we did all the meetings with our committees. All of those were open to the public. We posted at our building, on our website, and also down here on the bulletin board, all the meetings, everything like that. So we did go through all that as part of the process, and it is on our webpage as well. We are pushing back the effective date. What we're going to look for is, based on some other stuff going on in the state, we're going to do January 1st of 2026 as the effective date. It just seemed cleaner at this point in time. There's some other code legislation coming through the state. We kind of want to line that up so it's like a very nice, clean, even break. So we plan on having some time with using what we already have on our contractor licensing system or anything like that. We've made announcements that we're in the process, and then we will start sending them out. Hey, we're at this stage, here's the information. These presentations will be online for them to review as well, and kind of allow them to know that everything's upcoming. How this also works is if your project beats in the code adoption, you stay on it. So if you submit in August and you're still going through reviews through us, in January when we change codes, we don't make you switch your project. You get to stay where you were the day you adopted. So we've already been warning Jesse and I and all the development service team meetings we do, telling all the designers, all the people, hey, we're in the process of code adoption. Just so you know, if you want to get it in now so you don't have to redesign it, you know, hit that date and we'll lock you in and everything like that. We usually also will do some informational seminars or things like that on specific things with the codes with the building community once we get it adopted, to let them know what they're going to need to change and everything like that. Yeah.
I just think it would be important to add that if somebody found a benefit to the future adoption after it's made formal through council, we would allow someone to move forward into the newer codes if they found it advantageous. So we have those discussions with everyone as they're coming in this interim period, that we would give them the benefit of either way, either choice. But after the effective date, obviously, we're going to start enforcing the newer version of the codes.
Okay. And so our departments have a collaboration. I imagine, as Mr. Curley said, of course, you're coordinating this with the planning department, with Ms. Coulter in purchasing, all those different departments and entities who deal with these vendors. They know that this is coming.
Yeah.
And if they didn't hear it from you, they heard it from them, they're going to hear it 5 times,
Yes.
and not 0 times. So,
Yes, correct.
Yeah, that's.
We have
that's
a
the way we
tendency
try
to
to do
inundate
things.
people with information,
Right.
so yeah.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second.
I have another question.
Oh, okay. Ms. Burke. Alderman Burke.
Aurora is surrounded by a lot of communities, and they all have different codes. How do we stack up to those other communities? For example, you know, what is Naperville doing? Are are we all going to be on the same, you know, set of codes eventually, or? I know it's
So-
like a moving target, but, you know, you always hear about, and I'm going to say this, you hear a lot of people make these statements, oh, it's so hard to build in Aurora.
Yep.
And that's what I'm getting at.
We hear that daily. It depends what direction you head out of town, what there are going to be codes there. So the further west you go, they're probably further behind us, but for Like regional suburban area, we've fallen a little bit behind being on the 15. I think Naperville's on 21. They're moving to the 21. Yeah, because we initially, at the outset of this project, almost 2 years ago, did an analysis of the neighboring communities to kind of see where we're at. Most all of them are at 21 to 24. There's also now a state mandate that was put in place at the start of this year where we had to be within the last 2 code editions. So this is partially to bring us up to state compliance and level. I'll be honest with you, I'm not always sure everyone is going to follow that. I think as a staff, you will find that frequently our inspectors are out on site and they do get that. We're not required to do this anywhere else. We very much compel our staff to be at the cutting edge, whether it's the energy code or accessibility code. And we can go to neighboring communities where their staff isn't nearly as qualified as ours or have the expertise. We have the highest ISO score in the whole state. It would actually be the lowest. It's a golf thing, so like we're at 2, and the best you get is 1. No one else is even at 2. So we're there. We also have what it's like 130 some certifications,
certs, yeah.
for our staff. Part of it is the knowledge base of the staff. They catch more than a lot of other communities are, so people don't get away with the same stuff in Aurora.
Yeah, I additionally wanted to highlight, and my suspicion is most of the time when you're hearing that comment about it being difficult, it's probably not a new project, it's probably a remodeling project. Does that ring true? That's my suspicion. And I will say that we have at least the state expertise for using the existing building code. We've highlighted that a couple times here. That is the area where the code allows flexibility. And we promote that. We've been teaching it. We literally provide seminars at a national level. The Association for Preservation Technology International is actually proposing our amendments that you're voting on now as amendments to the national document or the ICC document for the existing building code, because we've used the tool so frequently, we know where its flaws are, and we think we know where we could improve the document or improve the tool, because it is a little cumbersome. But that being said, I'm unaware of any community that's using all the tools available to make projects less onerous rather than more onerous. So I get frustrated by hearing that comment, but in the end, Aurora happens to be the largest community in the state of Illinois that gets audited by the state. We are audited for accessibility. We've been audited in my time for accessibility when a very large pharmaceutical distribution company that happens to be in town and many towns in the region was sued for accessible problems. They found none in Aurora. We actually probably discuss accessibility compliance likely more than anything else, I'm guessing, in our plan review process. So that's an area where, and I guess it's not the only area. We also have been audited for our energy compliance, and we've been audited by the plumbing, the Illinois Plumbing Code or Department of Public Health Plumbing Department. So we're the first community and the largest community that gets audited by the state, because the largest community in the state has enough influence in Springfield to exempt themselves from the oversight of the state. So if you travel west of here, those communities do not have the oversight that we have to hold ourselves to in order to comply with the state regulations. So we're doing everything we can to both ensure we are being compliant and adopting and using and teaching all of the tools of flexibility that we can find to allow things to be, allow projects to happen in a simpler fashion, in a less onerous fashion, and in a fashion that we both know, we all would know are compliant and safe, yet we've still tried to find some kind of alternative path for code compliance. So I have to admit, I get frustrated when I hear those comments as well, but we also, it is important to understand the context of the environment that we're in, trying to comply with all the state regulations that we don't have any control over adopting. And most of the discussions we have about code compliance have to do with the state requirements. So, sorry about that little
Thank you.
soapbox there.
Any other comments?
Oh, sorry.
I have a quick question. So you're saying that we're on 2015. What would it take for us to be caught up, to be like to 224? Is it money? Is it, what is it that it would take?
Yeah, it's literally this process. We've already got built into our staffing and our budget for our department, getting new code books and everything like that. But once that's done, so after, once you guys deem it appropriate and approve it, it'll move on to COW and council, and once council approves it, it basically becomes effective ordinance based on the date we're going to set. After that goes, it's just us purchasing books for staff and everything like that. We already are sending people to seminars on the 24 code under anticipation that even if we don't, they're still going to need to know it if we have to go to another one. And then just again, sharing the information like Alderman Barrero asked about the contractors, design firms and stuff like that.
So we could do a jump from 2015 to 24 in what would you say? A
We-
year, 2 years?
We will be ready by January 1st, 2026. We would be ready before that probably we could probably do it as quickly as a month.
Okay.
But giving it more length of time allows everybody for a greater adjustment period, allows our staff to get a little more comfortable with it and everything like that before we actually execute it. Yes,
And then Jesse Kohler, Director of Building and Permits. So both Naperville and Sugar Grove are currently on the 2018 I-Series, and then Oswego, Montgomery, and North Aurora are on the 2021 I-Series.
Warrenville's
Warrenville.
also on 21.
Any other questions or comments? Alderwoman Bay.
Thank you, Chairman. This is for Mr. Curley. Data centers.
Yes.
So it's a new area. A lot of cities may not be having many rules for them. What about Aurora? Are we trying to have some basic rules like sound pollution, vibration pollution, any other kind of pollution, and minimum standards, and also like having a meter installed at their site so any person can see what's the sound level coming out of that facility?
So we did not add anything about data centers specifically into the adoption that you're looking at right now. Much of what you just asked for can be handled in multiple ways. Some of that is the entitlement process that happens when the zoning is being approved. In fact, the items that we still are waiting for full implementation of, those are all coming from the entitlement process from before. So there are tools that we currently can use to enforce the state mandated pollution control measures. But that, I know your question goes beyond that. We certainly can contemplate some additional provisions, either, and I actually think I probably would put them in the entitlement process, but the simple answer is we did not address that here. This process started better than 18 months ago, actually, and at the time, the concerns that we have about the data centers, or I guess the data center locations, had not been identified at that time, at least.
Is it possible to add them at the next, maybe the next version of it?
Yes, the simple answer is yes, we can add it. This is something that we control, that you control as a council, and if the things need to be added, we certainly have the ability to add them, and we do not have to wait for the code cycle changes to make modifications to these adoptions either. They are fully within your control.
And I also wanted to say thank you and commend you on working with the data center issues.
Oh, thank you. I wish
Thank you so much.
wish we were further along, but I appreciate
Yes.
I appreciate your support.
Thank you.
And from your comments, Mr. Curley. I'll just add, it's not hard to build in Aurora. It's hard to build a unsafe project or unsafe building,
Yes.
because we hold the standard that you're going to build a safe building. So I think that's where they have the problem, is they don't necessarily want to meet that standard. Their standard is down here. We're trying to bring the builders up here. So if you want to build an unsafe building, I mean, maybe you want to go further west, but we're gonna have safe projects and safe buildings in the city of Aurora, and I commend you guys for what you're doing.
Greatly appreciate your comment, and like I said, I think it's important to understand that the only choice we really have is to be better in every way. Make sure we're teaching everyone what the rules are, make sure we're enforcing it in an appropriate way, but additionally, really continuing to beat the drum about the existing building code and how we have made an alternative path to compliance available, and we're trying to promote everyone using that as much as possible. The construction industry is very, very frustratingly slow to change, very slow to change in many ways, and adopting new things has been slow. We've been talking about we've been experts in the existing building code, I would suggest, for probably, it might be 2 decades, it's at least a decade and a half, and we're still talking even very parochially, locally, about this topic, and other communities are still not using it at all. And most of the buildings that you could point to that a lot of my long-term staff are proudest of happen to be downtown, buildings that had sat vacant for a long time, and they would not have been redeveloped if not for many things, but one of the tools is the use of the existing building code as well, and our expertise in coaching people on how to get code compliance in an alternative way.
Want to edit? I had one thing to Alderman Benuelos's comment about adoption, the time frame. Part of the reason as we got into this, we decided to go all the way to the 24 because we were at the 21. There are some minor code adjustment things we're concerned about, but also we knew how long this was going to take for us to get through it all. We're hoping that by jumping to the 24, we can start doing this every 3 years rather than like every 6 or anything, so that you guys don't have to sit through as long of presentations when there's not 3 different code cycles to digest. It's just simple ones going over. So that's part of our forethought, was if we can just make a big jump now, make it painful once, we can start being more regular with everything on it as well.
Alderwoman Bay.
I promise this will be the last
Oh,
one.
that's okay.
How does it impact the construction that is done in phases? So let's take example for Ward 9. As an example, Del Webb's or Ward 10 Lumen Apartments, they're developing in phases. So if they're going to start phase 3, is it they
Yes.
have to follow new rules?
No, so what occurs with them, and you brought up like Del Webb, or let's say Prairie Meadows, or something or stuff like Lennar, what we do that's actually kind of unique to other communities, and we've gotten a lot of compliments from builders on, is we do what's called a master plan program. So if you're coming in for a house, let's say it's the Annalise and the Campbell model. You come in, get those reviewed by us, we go back and forth, we get it right. We then hold that permit, and then you say, I want to do one at address 2, one at address 8, one at address 12. We just duplicate that one over and over again. We're not re-reviewing or anything like that, so it stays with where it originally was. Now in phase 2, if you still want to do the Annalise and the Campbell, but we're adding the Douglas, you're turning the Douglas. The Douglas is now on the new codes because we haven't reviewed it before. But we try and make it so that it's streamlined to wherever you started, so that they have very definitive takeoffs on amount of materials, everything like that, so they can keep a consistent model. That being said, I will say one of our builders, I think it was Pulte, right, went ahead and they electively have decided we want to comply with the upcoming energy codes and things like that. So they went ahead and submitted revisions. So we're taking those in, looking at them forward for the new compliance, and we're going to start kicking them out under a new master plan as a new track going forward. So the new models will have increased energy efficiency and features over the previous ones, kind of electively. But it kind of works like I said at the beginning, if you have a commercial project or whatever, if it's in for review, the day you submit it is the codes that are locked in, unless you decide to electively go forward.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. There's no further comments. We do have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it 5-0.
Thank you all.
And that was on the ordinance, and the other one was just information. Thank you. The last item is under held 25-0316. This is a resolution authorizing the reappointment of several people to the Aurora Civic Center Authority Board. I had a discussion with staff. They are not ready to move forward on this. And really, instead of holding it indefinitely, we're going to go ahead and remove it, and staff will resubmit when they're ready. So, do we have anything else to come before the RAP committee today?
Motion to adjourn.
We have a motion from Alderwoman Bade, second from Alderman Barrero. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? We are adjourned at 4:01 p.m. Thank you.